Hi, everyone. And this is a episode that belongs to our uh, episodes involving Bible research tools and how to study using the Bible and Bible tools. This is going to be a very important Bible tool because most of us read the King James Bible, and that's the source I use primarily each time we go and investigate the New Testament or even the Law and Prophets. So the answer is that we have to always look at the King James online dictionary in this source I'm going to give you today when we have a question, when it doesn't seem to fit up with other similar passages, and we can use this as a study tool to correct our misimpression from the old way the English was understood in, oh wow, how many hundreds of years ago? Over 412 years right now, 412 years ago. The English has evolved or changed since then. Anyway, so let's begin. Okay, so here is the web address is there in the highlighted av1611.com. I hope you can see that. I'll give a bigger version of it at the very end. And you can see how it's laid out, very easy to use it. It has A, B, C, so all the way to Z. So if you had a word, let's say the word will, which became an issue of dispute in our recent debate we were having online, friendly debate. And it says here, the online dictionary of King James Version words contains over 11,000 definitions. And we're going to see what their main resource was for that. But in any event, this is a better way of understanding what the English word means than the way we typically do it, which is we're using our 2023 idea of a word and we're using that and imposing it on the word of what we think is the word of God, right? We believe it's the word of God, the law and prophets, and you're imposing on something that was written in 1250 BC and then was translated in 1611 to King James English. And then 412 years later, you think it's the same meaning of the word. Not necessarily so. Not necessarily so. It's not that word in our modern English may have changed meaning completely around. So I just want to show you, this is the dispute we were having earlier. Numbers 9:14 versus Exodus 12 verses 48 to 49. So if you look there to the right, the Exodus 12 passage, that says in the more modern, using modern English, more modern, let's put it that way, translations, it says a foreigner residing among you who wants to celebrate the Lord's Passover must have all the males in his household circumcised. And then it goes on to say there is one law for the native born and the sojourner in that context, right? The sons of Israel and the sojourner must do the same thing once the sojourner elects to voluntarily to do Passover observance. It's not required, but if he wants to do it, or he, it's definitely he here, then he has to be circumcised. So, but when we look over here in Numbers 9, verse 14, this is translating the King James Bible not to say wants to celebrate. It says will keep the Passover. So let's read it again here. And if a stranger shall sojourn among you and will keep the Passover unto the Lord, according to the ordinance of the Passover and according to the manner thereof, so shall he do. You shall have one ordinance both for the stranger and for him that was born in the land. So people were quoting this out of context, saying that there's one law for Israel and sojourners, and it never varies. But here's an exact proof of the opposite, where if it's voluntary, it clearly means the Passover doesn't apply to the sojourner by default, but the sojourner can elect to do it. But here it says will keep, and some young lady was saying that it means mandatory. So if I said you will do something, you must do it, right? Now that's not even what makes sense in the sentence. So the sentence actually suggests it means, even in modern English today, it would mean wish. So listen to it again with your ears again. And if a stranger shall sojourn among you and will keep the Passover, that means it's in his will to do it. But we're actually not going to just rely upon our own instincts, our modern instincts. We're going to go back and see what is the original meaning in 1611. And the answer is to use this tool, the KJV Online Dictionary. And here it is. And just to show you, if there wasn't a big problem and a misunderstanding in the meanings of words in the King James Bible, nobody would have went to the trouble of creating a whole website dedicated to educating you on what is the original or the closer original meaning to each of the words in the King James Bible. So it is a significant problem, and so you cannot always assume that what you're reading makes sense. And let me go back again, just 1 minute. So when you see such a disparate modern statement about the same Passover commands, right? Same Passover command that is in Exodus 12, verse 48 to 49 is in Numbers 9, verse 14. But somehow one is translated in the King James as will keep, but the NIV in the Exodus version is translating with wants wants to celebrate. So you see, there's an incongruity. So what's the solution? Well, the solution can be English has changed since 1611. So let's look. So now what you do is you look up the letter W, go to KJV Dictionary, you press the W button, and you type in the word you want, will. And there it goes. It drops over there, and then that will help you answer this question. So you'll be asking yourself, what does the word will mean in this? Will keep. Does it mean must keep? If a stranger shall sojourn among you and must keep the Passover. That's what her name is Christina. That's what Christina was saying. It must. It's a must. It's not a will. It's a will. Excuse me. It's a must. Will means must, and does not mean wish. But let's take a look at the this King James dictionary, which should guide us into what's the truth, because that's what it's dedicated to. And it's not having anything to do with that verse. It's not trying to load up that verse or change that verse. It's trying to be a neutral party and give us definitions of terms in the King James Bible. So you take the word will in the King James Bible and you put it over here and on the left in the King James Dictionary. Let's see what the meanings are here. I'm just going to read them a little bit here, but I've cropped them out to make it easier. 1, will, that faculty of mind by which we determine either to do or forbear an action. Okay, it's your will. The faculty which is exercised in deciding among two or more objects, decisions, will, okay. The judgment determines which is preferable, and the will decides which to pursue. It's a decision, it's a choice, right? In other words, we reason with respect to the value or importance of of things. We then judge which is to be preferred. Okay, so we can decide, do we want to do it or not do it? We can prefer it or not prefer it. It's our choice. Number 2, it means choice, a determination. It is my will to prosecute the trespasser. You don't have to prosecute the trespasser, but you want to. You wish to, okay? And in King James English, you will. Let's see. It is my will to prosecute the trespasser. It's not mandatory you do it, but that's what, because in this English period, this time in English, it means wish. 3, choice, discretion, pleasure. Again, all 3 of these things are choice and wish and want, not they're being told this is what they must do. So that was a misreading by our friend, well-meaning, I'm sure, and not intending to mislead anyone, but not knowing Old English, or at least the inheritance of Old English into more modern English. And this, even in the 1611s, was still having the meanings of the Old English period. All right, so let's look at it again. Here's the passage. Now this helps you construe the passage. You're reading the King James, and it says, if a stranger shall sojourn among you and will keep the Passover. Now you need to know, is it wish or is it must? Which meaning does it have? You go to the right. Does it mean must or wish? Let's listen again. I'm just cropping out what was there. Does this mean the following 3 things? Do these mean must, mandatory? That faculty of the mind by which we determine either to do or forbear an action. Does that sound you must do it, or it's a decision you must make to do it? 2, choice or determination. Does that mean you must do it, or you're trying to decide to do it? 3, choice or discretion or pleasure. Does that mean you must do it, or you're trying to decide whether to do it? So this is how you would determine whether the King James Bible is still relevant in using the word will, if you think will always means must in modern English, which I doubt is even the truth there, but that's what Christina said. So the answer is, you need to get rid of the concept in your mind, will keep means must keep. It doesn't mean that. It means wants to keep. Just like it says in the parallel passage of Exodus 12, verses 48 to 49, about the Passover, the very same thing. And it clearly says there, wants to keep. Now, if you want to put this tool in your toolbox of things, make a note of it. These are the citations. So the main landing page has to be av1611.com. And I bet you this would all come up. But if it doesn't, you need this whole path, okay? And then, as I said, if you look at the individual word will have its own web page, will. Now, I want to give you a little background of where this Bible is coming from. What is its reliance on? So it isn't exactly going back into 1611. It's going back into a dictionary from, now it's almost 2,000 years ago. It's, did I say 2,000? 200 years ago, less 5. Okay, so it's 195 years ago. It's the Webster's Dictionary. So let me read this to you. The online dictionary of King James Version's words contains over 11,000 definitions. This dictionary is derived from Noah's Webster American Dictionary of the English Language, a dictionary published in 1828, which frequently uses Bible verses in the definitions. So that tells you Webster was trying to find out the meaning of the word in the King James Bible. So that's why it's not really dated solely to its time period of 1828, but it's literally trying to tell you, it's trying to help its readers know what the King James Bible said. So you have to kind of understand Webster's was even leaning to look backwards and philologically, that means looking at the love of language, to find the true original meanings in the King James Bible. So that's why it can be relevant for this purpose. Okay, let's continue. This is an abridgment of the Webster's 1828. It was created by comparing each word from the Webster's 1828 to a list of words from the King James Bible. If a word from the Webster's 1828 appeared in the KJV, its definition was included in this online text. So anything that matches the KJV is put here, and that is where they excluded all other words, just the words that match the KJV. So that's a very interesting condensation, if you will, of the Webster's Dictionary. Additionally, each word from the dictionary was included to be as complete as possible without including all 60,000 definitions from the unabridged dictionary. Okay. So, and then it says, please use the index above. And then it also said, if you go to their Sword Searcher Bible software, which I think is free, they say, you can have this as a tool within the readings of the King James Bible yourself. You can just say, oh, okay, I'm going to look at that word. It'll link in and you'll be able to look up the word in the King James. So that's to those of you who are not as familiar with Old English, this is and even modern English, but in the antique period of the King James Bible, this is a useful tool to have on your computer if you're not familiar with those types of issues. But if you just have this tool, you can overcome that kind of problem. Okay, that'll wrap this up, and I hope this will help us put another tool in our toolbox when we're reading the King James Bible, that we will know how to distinguish its meanings by going back to this particular website. Again, it's av1611.com. That's pretty easy. AV means authorized version, 1611 means the Bible, King James Bible. So av1611.com. All right, take care. Ciao. Bye.